Yeah, today is a Friday. I just feel like it's a Saturday. I think it's because of the unexpected holiday that the government gave us for the swearing in of Professor Kindiki as the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. That is now a done deal, complete. And this again is one of our predictions which has come to pass. We did predict that Professor Kindiki's swearing in would be sooner than expected. We had expected it to be on Tuesday, though, that is this coming week. It was I knew for a fact that the High Court was not going to put in any conservatory orders preventing a swearing in due to the high octane politics that involves or that always plays at the national level. So in this way, we saw the conservatory orders being lifted and the court refusing to grant further conservatory orders, and now it opened up his swearing in. And quite funnily, the government moved so fast. I don't know why they did it. We can speculate as to the reasons that caused that move. One could say that the government wanted, or the executive wanted to prevent former deputy president's team from moving to court and possibly getting some other orders preventing the swearing in. There were those attempts which were made yesterday and they failed when they were made. There were oral applications rather, which were made. Those oral applications failed at that point. Then today we saw a glamorous event. It was a small event that brought together a few people at KICC to witness the swearing in of Professor Kindiki as the next Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, now the third Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya under the new constitution. Now, first of all, let me just say before we proceed, because now the question that has to disturb our minds as Kenyans and as people who care for our nation is what next now? What should the Ruto-Kindiki team, Ruto-Kindiki government do? The truth is, the country is at a stage where the population or the general members of the population do not trust the government. That much is given. The government has lost trust of the people. People feel that the government is not addressing their needs. Uh, you could even say that the impeachment against Rigathi Gachagua is something which was not supported even until now by a bigger chunk of the people. So it is not because that Rigathi Gachagua is a good person or he was performing. No, it is because the people felt it is something that should not take precedence in view of the prevailing economic issues currently in the country. We are facing a lot of things. The cost of living is high. People are fighting. There is a lot of femicide. People are being killed. People are being abducted en masse and without proper response from the government. And in fact, the people believe that it is the government doing this mass abduction of those it deemed to oppose it. So these are critical concerns. These are concerns that you find a lot of the people, members of the public, feel should be the things to be considered. These are the things that the government should be addressing rather than going on to, proceed with the impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua. Be that as it may, we are at that point where now Ruto has in place the person I believe he'd wanted from the beginning, and that is Professor Kithure Kindiki as the deputy president. I'm saying that because I believe he did not want to go into the election with Professor Kithure Kindiki as the deputy president, because in terms of the gift of speech or arousing crowds. Former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua beats the current Deputy President Kithure Kindiki hands down. Former Deputy President is a man who has mastered the art of speech, so he's so good at arousing the crowd and making you feel like somebody is actually speaking for you. Now, what is it that now, if we look at the government, what do we think the government should do? Ruto has in place whoever he wants as the deputy president. Now it is time to work. We are going to look at the things that the government should consider, should look into, and put in place in order to win back the trust of the people. So the first thing that I believe is Ruto and Kindiki must ensure that they win back public confidence. That is the number one thing that they have to do. So they have to win back public confidence. There is complete erosion of public confidence in the government, too much so that whatever they are doing right now is seen as suspect. So whatever move the government is undertaking, some people feel like no, they're only doing this in order to benefit themselves. So they have to win back public confidence and reassure members of the public that whatever the government is doing, it is doing to benefit them and their families, and also to uplift their conditions of living. So those are the things that the first step that it has to do. And how can it do that? The government can reassure members of the public by addressing some of the concerns that they are raising. For instance, right now, the hot cake is one, the Adani deal. So they have to speak candidly to the people about the Adani deal and what it entails. You cannot tell me from where I sit that KPLC is performing quite well, but then you are putting it out there to sell it, because just recently they post a profit of 30 billion. So if it is performing that well, you cannot purport to be selling it to a private company, because normally governments sell uh, parastatals or government companies which are not performing, so that the private sector or the private company can revive it and bring it back to profitability. But when a company is actually performing well, why do you need to sell it? So these are the things that they have to now come, because when I listened to the speech by the president implored the deputy president that he needed his voice in some of these things. He needed his voice in the energy sector. He needed his voice in these, the issues of economy. So we expect the deputy president and the president to now come out clear and also hold true to the values of our constitution. So that is a very critical thing. The values of our constitution that would include accountability and reporting back to the people. They are employees of the people. So for me, one would suggest, because I did not vote for this government. I have to admit that fact. But they are the government right now in place. So there have been a lot of politics that have been played since this government came into power. And we've seen this politics play, and it has culminated to the impeachment of the deputy president and another one taking his place. So the expectation is now, Ruto, you have what you wanted all along. Now, can you now go back to work? Come back, sit down, re-strategize, and see where did the rain start beating you. Because when this government came into power, it was the darling of the people, as the former deputy president would actually put it. It was the darling of the people. The people liked it, at some point, because what they were saying resonated with the common man, the person who is down there. But now what they're implementing, because under Ruto, it was low taxes. That is what he campaigned on. That was the platform. That was not going to burden the people with a lot of taxes. But what we are seeing right now, as the government is implementing its policies or trying to implement its policies, is now raising taxes. But then when the people question, you told us that you're going to lower taxes, and by so doing also improve the cost of living and also reduce borrowing. So you see, Ruto himself he gave promises, I believe, that he knew or perhaps ought to have known were impossible to meet, because you cannot claim, for instance, economically, that you are going to lower taxes. You promise a lot of economic development. Some of them require a lot of capital intensive promises. So when you make promises of that nature, but then you fail to find and you tell people that you are not going to borrow, then essentially the other option would be to raise that money from the people themselves, that would entail raising taxes on some of these issues. And if you raise taxes, that would impact the pockets of the common man. So those are some of the things that they really need to go back and speak candidly with the people and have this message. They carve it and phrase it in a manner that the common man can actually understand why the government has to put up affordable housing. You move to some of these major cities, for instance, in Migori or in Homa Bay or in Machakos, you wonder, why do we need affordable housing that is going to be sold at 3.4 in a place like Migori? Who is really, because in those places you'd consider them, those are small towns, which I would consider as actually rural areas. If you consider truly urban areas in Kenya, Nairobi, I would say tops, and then followed by Mombasa, and then Kisumu, and possibly if you go further is Nakuru. So then it stops there. So you could speak of affordable housing in terms of areas which at least have slums. So then you have a specific thing you are addressing. I do not know any slum in Migori. I do not know any slum in Homa Bay or in Machakos or wherever, or some of these satellite towns. So you have to look at perhaps even in Kiambu, I think it's one thing that affordable housing would make sense. So you build affordable housing in Kiambu because of its proximity to Nairobi. So policies of the government have to make sense economically, and they have to make sense also to members of the public, and that requires reassuring members of the public that the reason why we are doing this is because of this, and this is how it is going to impact your pocket. One, as a working person; two, as a person owning business; and three, as a person seeking employment. So there has to be, those policies have to impact positively on those categories of people. So what we have right now is people losing interest because there is nobody who is communicating these policies so candidly to the people, and also taking the advices or the opinion that the people are giving back. So it is important that they start to listen more to what the people want, rather than just doing what we call knee-jerk reaction, just thinking that you know what is best for the people. So you have to identify and listen to the ground and say, what do really people want? I believe that before anything else, people would want to afford groceries. You go there and find, if you're going to buy nyanya or tomatoes, then it has to be cheap. You have to be able to afford it. If you're going to buy mboga, you have to be able to afford it. If you're going to buy unga, you have to be able to afford it. So then when that is dealt with as a matter of priority, then you can go up to other capital intensive issues. And indeed, those were the campaign points that Ruto used to ride into, or to win the presidency, rather. So that should be the number one thing that they're going to do. They have to reassure the public and go back to their promises that they made, and ensure that they develop policies that are aligned with those promises. Otherwise, what is going to happen is that there is going to be erosion, and complete erosion of public confidence in the government. And then now we have to, the second thing, and I think this is also related to our first point, is this: there is something called trickle down economy. I don't know whether you've experienced this, that the government or economists report that the government is actually doing well economically, or the inflation rate is so low, like right now. Apparently, Ruto's inflation rate is lower than Huru's time. So, but we are not feeling that thing in our pockets. We don't feel it when you go to buy things in the market. So you have to feel that the inflation, when the inflation is low, then your pocket should have a lot of money. You should be able to take care of your business. You should be able to have money to go for holidays. You should be able to pay for your children's school fees much easily, because the government, instead of taking away from you, it is leaving so much in your pocket, you know. But I don't know how this one of Kenya works, because they are raising taxes, or that rather is the intention of raising taxes, but our inflation is going is apparently going down. So I don't know how it works, but the fact is, so many people are not feeling what the government is actually doing. So inflation, they're telling you it is going down, but you're not feeling it in your pocket. So that must change. They have to look for ways to ensure that we feel that that the inflation has actually reduced, because so far right now we are feeling nothing. We are feeling nothing. So Ruto has now the opportunity to ensure, or to use whoever he wants, Kindiki, because Kindiki, I think, is someone who is a yes man. So if you wanted a yes man, and that was the only way he can succeed, well, you have been given that yes man. Now go back and start working and ensure that you do to the people whatever you promised them. So this is not in any way in support of what Ruto is doing. No. But because he's the president, and whatever he's going to do or is doing right now impacts all of us, we have to give out our voice and tell him, Mr. President, this and this is what you ought to do. Now, another thing is, and this is purely political thing that the government of Ruto and Kindiki must do is this. And this is more to Kindiki than Ruto. Kindiki has to realize that he is not a co-president. This has been this is one of the factors that have caused a lot of destabilization in government. It happened with Uhuru government. I do not know why, actually, and I think I know. Perhaps I know the genesis of it, when it started in 2013 under the 2010 constitution, because when the constitution had placed this percentage that one has to, for you to win the president, it should be 50 plus 1, then the people went back and sat in their tribal cocoons and said, okay, Raila perhaps have Luo and the lawyers, or let's just say Western Kenya, barring Rift Valley. So he has those and perhaps the coast. And then Uhuru also said, okay, I have Mount Kenya, so I'm starting at this point. And then Ruto came say, okay, I have Rift Valley. So meaning what we had here were tribal chiefs coming together and saying, let us go for the presidency. So, but you have to realize that they're saying, okay, you are the number one, but there is the ego thing that is at play, because the number two believes, without me, you cannot deliver the presidency. So therefore, when you win it, it becomes some sort of, we are co-presidents. You're just the president because we can't, both of us cannot be called president. So I'm just here in number two, but in terms of political implications, we are co-president. And therefore, the deputy president under the Constitution 2010 was given more voice and more power politically, especially when it comes with his political base. So a deputy president with a political base tends to behave as a co-president to the president. So that is one thing that affected the Jubilee government, as you could see, between I think it started more or less earlier, but now it became more apparent after the 2017 elections, there was no way Uhuru was going to drop Ruto because Ruto has his political base. For Ruto, it was much easier for him to drop Rigathi Gachagua because the people who are in parliament, especially from the mountain region, Mount Kenya region, are loyal to Ruto and not to Rigathi Gachagua. Meaning Rigathi Gachagua, though he may have a political base, as you could see, that there are people down there from the ground who supports him and who were against his impeachment. But these people were not in parliament or in Senate to help protect him from impeachment, because I don't think had he had these people, had he had MPs in parliament and who can champion his cause, nobody would attempt to even bring up that impeachment motion against him. But the fact that he didn't have, so bad for him, and I'm quite really sorry for him. That is politics 101. You have to have people who are for you in parliament. This is basically politics. So then for Kindiki, he has to also realize that he does not have those people. The people who are still there are loyal to the president, and therefore he has to be the deputy president, the principal assistant to the president. If that includes being a yes man, let him be a yes man. If he feels that he cannot work with the government or with the president, he has the opportunity to resign. You cannot stay in a government where you feel that you are it does not conform with your ideals. Resign. So that is always an option. So another thing is that Deputy President Kindiki must know how to handle power. He must know how to handle power. So power tends to corrupt even the humblest person amongst us. So knowing how to handle power will win you people. Knowing how to handle power. So the former deputy president did not know how to handle power. It went into his head. He made enemies along the way. He thought that politics is linear and that politics is either black or white. He never saw the gray side of politics, because politics is always in that area. That is where politics lies. It is in the shades of gray. You do not know whether it is going to be what is going to happen next. And it has come as a surprise to him that someone they were elected together has actually pushed for his removal. And you could see the way the president was quite happy when Kindiki was being sworn in. He was, gave him a bump on the hand, which was, of course, a quite interesting thing. It made him to look more human. Now, the fourth thing that they have to do. So the third thing I said, that is for Kindiki. He has to know his place. So the first thing that he must do, this goes to the CSS. The arrogance that come with this government, that arrogance must end. And I believe Kindiki is one man who can help to cultivate a culture of humility among government, of especially the CSS, or those who advise the government or employed to advise the government or the executive in various areas, such as David D. You don't want these people making statements which raise emotions among members of the public, because they are repulsive. People look at them and feel, man, we are suffering down here. But you people, you are there, you should be dealing with these issues. We are raising them with you because the platform in which we can reach you is perhaps Twitter or Facebook or wherever. And when we raise these issues, you contemptuously respond to them as if, you're telling people that you found it corrupt and you're going to leave it even more corrupt. You're essentially telling us it is our turn to eat. Please stop disturbing us. So when we see these things as young people, then we feel, what then really is there for us as young people? Should we also wait to, at that point, to also get an opportunity to eat? Then how long should we wait? But when a government works for the best interest of the people, you won't need all these things. you won't need people complaining. Because I always believe that government, it is never an issue of tax. If government can collect as much tax as it can, but in so long as we can see as members of the public that the tax that we give is actually working for us, that barabara ziko, the sewerage system is working, everything is working, the health sector is proper, this the security system is working, so people don't get abducted, the killing is reduced or completely not there, the corruption is completely sealed, then I don't think people would be saying, no, I can't pay more. They would pay more taxes. It is never an issue of the taxes. It is how the government is using those taxes. You are giving someone your money, but you're not seeing what they're doing with your money. So this is what creates anger among members of the public. And when people employed by the government respond to these issues with a lot of contempt, you wonder, why then are you there? Why are you there? If you can't take seriously your job, if you can't respond with humility to serious questions or serious concerns raised by the people, you better leave. You can't be there, somebody like David Ndii, you're advising the government, and you're just there, you can just speak anyhow you'd like. And I also blame President Ruto. If you are a president and you see your economic advisor speaking in such a manner, you have to admonish him. And that would also include firing him. Because basically, we are the people who elected the government, we are the employers. So when we seek answers, we need those answers. When we see that a person we elected or is appointed by the person we elected is talking to us as if we are children or do not know what we are doing, then we expect the government, we expect the president to act. So I expect the president to rein in on CSs who politic constantly, who are arrogant, who cannot respond with humility to questions that have been raised by the people. It is crazy. You'd expect people to be able to respond with it. We don't have those kind of leaders anymore. Sometimes it makes you wonder, then where are we really heading as a country? You'd find a leader abusing somebody who's posed a question. So you wonder, what kind of leaders do we have? Where did we drop our manners? And that culture will trickle down to our young people, the younger generation, because then we realize that leadership does not require accountability at all. And where leadership and accountability do not meet, it is a recipe for chaos. Because at some point the citizens or people will get angry and feel, okay, you people are not hearing what we are saying, you are still stone deaf, you cannot speak with humility, we will remove you from power. So for Ruto, it almost happened, and I hope that was a turning point for him to realize that they are not so far, they are not demigods. They are people like us who have a mandate for 5 years to deliver to the people of Kenya, and they have to deliver. And in doing their job, they have to be accountable and answerable to the people as and when demanded to do so. So please, the government should ensure, at least Ruto must ensure, that his CSS are all hands on deck working for the people and not just doing things or being arrogant about whatever they're doing. So that should be the number 4 thing that Ruto and Kindiki must ensure that they do to win back members of the public. Now, another thing that I also believe is very important. There are some people within the inner circle of the president who are overexcited. They tend to come up with crazy ideas. For instance, the one for Gerard Gay. You want to extend the the term limit of the president at this particular time. The constitution has provided for 5 years. Why can't we just see how much you can do in 5 years? You have another 5 years, a whole 10 years. Why do you need to extend it to 7 years? These are the things that creates anger. So the president need to rein in on these kind of people who may give him a bad name. So sometimes they do these things, they can be doing them by themselves, which I sincerely do not believe that somebody can just decide to, oh, we want to increase the term limit for the president to 7 years, and then somebody is close to the president does not tell them, now please stop with this. We don't want this. Please stop it. So those are some of the things we need to deal with. Let us not try to put the country in this mood or campaign mode. Campaign all the time. We need to stop that so that we only have 2 years and so far nothing is happening. So what we witnessed until now is politics after politics after politics. It is in 2022 that that Ruto and Kindiki, were sworn in. Yes, today Kindiki has been sworn in. Taking how is this going to work? When are we really going to wait for politicians to organize themselves? And how long are they going to take to organize themselves? So they need to stop with the politics. They need to stop with these people coming up with crazy ideas that they know members of the public would definitely oppose. Now, I'd put this one separately. This is possibly the elephant in the room. Right now, Kenyans are woke, if I could use that word. Kenyans are really woke. People access information at a much faster rate than you can imagine. They understand more of what is going on in parliament than you can imagine. And I think this is what I would call the digital age. The digital age has given us an opportunity to really monitor at every step of the way what the government is doing. So before the government even thinks of doing something or supporting something, members of the public already know, because that information travels faster than you can imagine. So then when members of the public rejected the finance bill, they knew what they were rejecting. So when a government is now trying to bring back that finance bill through the back door, already now that is picking up. So you are giving people fodder. It is bad for a government that is right now struggling to, make its image or to perfect its image, to come up again with this crazy issue of bringing back the taxes which were under the finance bill through tax amendment, through amending the tax laws. So already people know. And these are things that can, again, make the Gen Zs and the millennials come back to the streets and push against the government. At this stage, you do not want that. You want a calm political atmosphere. We have so much to deal with right now. There are people who are hurting because of what happened to Ruto-Kindiki, to Rigathi Gachagua. You have those people to contend with. They are angry, and therefore anything that would destabilize the government, because they've not reached that stage of accepting the outcome. So anything that would destabilize the government or make the government seem like it's working, they would readily jump on that and push against the government to the wall on those issues. You do not want that at this stage. This process is over, and I think the judiciary has helped Ruto in so many ways. He should be thankful that right now he should go back and sit down and try to have a working formula for the people. And I really hope that it is going to work for him and for Ruto-Kindiki. So then let us just see some of the things that are going on before I leave some of the things, because at least it is important we check what Kenyans say. If you could just see how people have lost hope. So just want to read a few tweets. Just For instance, people are really attacking the Chief Justice Martha Koome. If you could see, Alfred Keter writes on Twitter, or rather X, that in justice, Martha Koome is the worst Chief Justice since independence of our republic. So you such kind of statement. And then another one, it's Wanga, at its Wanga writes, 1st of November 2024 will be remembered as the day the judiciary died under Chief Justice Martha Koome. So you see, we are losing hope in these institutions. People are really losing hope in this institution. So you do not want that. People had lost hope in the executive. People lost hope in parliament. And the only place people felt they could find refuge is the judiciary. So then matter goes to the judiciary. The judiciary says, okay, we are going to allow the swearing in to go on. Now people have completely now lost hope in the judiciary. So government critics like Martha Koome has eroded the integrity of the judiciary. She's a disgrace. She should go. So some of those rallying calls, right now you need to find a way of managing it. You need to find a way of managing it in order that they don't they don't germinate to become a problem and a point to destabilize the country. So let us just check if we have something here about what are they saying about Kindiki, so that you just understand how sometimes some of these issues can be very emotive, very emotive. So someone is right. The so-called Shola ad, she's writing, the so-called huge crowds for swearing of the deputy president, and then Kindiki puts in quotes, the government has money to run holiday and bribe attendees, but does not have money to pay medical interns. So these are the issues when people read them in social media. They raise a lot of emotions among members of the public, and those can be points where people start to rally around those points and feel victimized and rise against the government. You do not want that to happen to you. So that would mark the end of our live today. Thanks so much for those who are watching. I appreciate. If you're watching us and you've not subscribed to our channel, do kindly do so. I would really appreciate your support in this regard, and share these videos. We'd also wish to know your thoughts on the topic of the day. You can share your thoughts on the chats or in the comment section, so that we know what you think about our analysis. Otherwise, you have a lovely weekend. Thank you.